once I started to get into it, because it's becoming very, very popular everywhere, is DRM. Has anybody heard of DRM? Hands up, anybody? Okay. DRM is Digital Radio Mondiale. It's a French word. It means World Digital Radio. And it's a broadcast standard for HF broadcast, primarily for HF broadcast, but it's now catching on everywhere in the world apart from the US. Standard philosophy we have. We did it with CDMA and everybody has GSM. We're slowly catching up. Digital Radio Mondiale is a, let me demonstrate it to you, hopefully, and so that you will be able to understand what this really means, and we'll talk a little bit about it. This is the website for Digital Radio Mondiale, and here these are receiving stations around Europe that are receiving HF broadcasts of some high quality signals.
If I could find nothing.
Pretty nice quality over the shortwave, right? This is what that sounds like using AM. Hear the difference, I hope. There it is digitally. There's another one. My hearing bandwidth is gone. This sounds as good as the other one. but if you listen carefully, so the sibilance, the frequency response, you know, unbelievable. Stop. Okay, we've got to close this down. Actually, there's some others here.
How's it handle QSB?
There's QSB on it, and you don't hear the fading with the digital signal. As long as now the problem with the digital signal is once it gets below a certain threshold, it's nothing. It's all or nothing, and that is going to be the issue with all these digital modes. But you know, I sit at home. I can listen to Radio New Zealand every evening with a DRM transmission, perfect quality. I can hear the accent still. Damn New Zealand accent, you know, strange accent, and the news from New Zealand. There's very few, unfortunately, there's very few signals getting to the US. So there's Radio New Zealand, Australia has something. There's a disco station in the Caribbean, only transmits once a day for 1 hour. But, you know, it's high quality disco music. We all love to listen to that. And then in Europe, there's lots and lots of stations. And this is important because this is what we call here HD radio, to some extent. HD radio, how many of you have got HD radio at home? Do you listen to it? Do you know even that it's coming on if you're listening to it? I think it stands for high definition, right? High definition radio. And the concepts are similar, but the technique is a little different for the US HD compared to Digital Radio Mondiale. And it's this technique, the DRM technique, that is being used for the high definition slow scan TV transmitters. And it's called OFDM, orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. That's as far as we will go with technical terms, but it's not SSB. and it's not any of the other modes that we're used to. But you can transmit it on an SSB channel, and it's all sorts of look it up, OFDM. I'm not going to start digressing. I'll start explaining OFDM to you. So that was just a general introduction to some non-internet modes. Those modes I can just pick up and listen. Nothing's critical. But what becomes critical with these modes now is timing. All of these modes, JT65, well, they're not all timing issues, but they are, some of them are. What is also valuable is the reverse beacon, RB. So when I transmit a JT65 signal, I can go to a website and see where in the world it was received, and you will be surprised. Those of you who use JT65, put your hands up again. What's the highest powers anybody has run? 10 watts?
Maybe a couple of watts.
Maybe a couple of watts. And how many thousands of miles and outside of the US?
It's amazing.
Amazing. All over the world. You want to work the world, JT65, but it's a really, boring mode. And I'll show you a display, but it's a very slow mode, and it's dependent upon precise timing. Your signal has to be transmitted and synchronized with universal time, within a second of universal time, so you have to be synchronized up. And it stays on for a specific time, and we spend a lot of time digitally signal processing this tone that is transmitted. Actually, with JT65, it's frequency shifting. All the different modes are subtly different. JT65 is a piccolo type effect, and you'll hear it on the bands. I don't think I have any signals to share with you on that. WSJTX is very new. How many of you have heard of it? Oh, I found one that nobody's heard of. Look it up. Those of you on JT65, look up WSJTX. This is a little bit cleverer. The signal to noise ratios that can be detected are down to minus 40 dB. And to give you an idea, minus 24 dB is about the threshold of JT65. And this has a very, very narrow bandwidth of 0.4 of a hertz. So as far as you're concerned, it's a single carrier, and it stays on for a specified period of time. It's called JT9-30. 30 defines how many seconds it's on for. So you've got 30 seconds of a single tone carrier. But on that carrier, there is some phase changes, and it's those phase changes that are detected and decoded by the software in your computer. And because you can narrow the bandwidths down, because you're looking deep into the noise, you can decode this. So it's a new mode from the guy who put together JT. The JT in JT65 is the same JT as in WSJTX. And then we get to the mode that a lot of you have used, which is Whisper. Oh, maybe you've used. How many of you have used WSPR? There we go, the same few who used JT65 and PSK. Now this is not a QSO mode. You're not communicating with anybody. Well, what's the point of that? We're hams, we want to talk to people. No, there's other things that we want to do. We want to know how well we get out. How well is this antenna versus this antenna? And this is a method of transmitting a beacon for the world to listen to, and to see how far you're getting with a particular antenna and with particular power levels. Or to see if the band is open. You can go to the Whisper website and see, well, is there propagation today between the West Coast and Europe? And you go and you see it, oh great, I'll get onto SSB and I'll talk to Europe. Good luck, because most of the time that there's a path for WSPR, there's no path for any other mode. It is a very, very weak signal mode running down to very low signal levels. Again, 1 watt is high power, very high power actually. No, very high power is 5 watts. 1 watt is average power. I'm going to show you some radios that put out 1 watt, and we can be seen around the world with these radios. And with a bit of luck, we can show you what's happening on the Whisper map right now. So this is
The map is fascinating.
the map is absolutely fascinating. This is a map of the world. At the moment, we're looking at the 30-meter band. We're looking at this for the last 10 minutes. This is real time, because I've got a real-time connection on the internet here. So for the last 10 minutes, we've had propagation on 30 meters. There's been propagation across to southern Europe, of course all over the US on 30 meters, as you would expect. But I can go look and see, is 20 meters still open? Let's have a check. And as you would expect, no 20 meters into Europe, but I would expect at this time of night to have propagation into Australia. Now still, it's 8 o'clock at night, I don't know that you'll be able to talk on a regular basis with Australia at this time on 20 meters, not without a kilowatt or so, but yet these guys are running 1 watt, 5 watts maximum and talking to the South Pacific. You know, and the stations all over the place. You know, this guy here in India, he'll pop up now and again. It's really, really a very interesting thing.
Now, are they actually talking or? Are they...
No, it's beacons. So the question is, are they talking? There's no talking. You transmit for a period of time. You can set that period of time in the software, and every 10 minutes, every hour, and somebody will report back over the internet to this website that they heard you. So if I click on W6SY here, this is what reports back. He is hearing all of these stations. He's hearing ZL1 BOE. Of course, he's hearing a lot in the US as well. Now, he's not transmitting because he's in blue. I know that blue is receive only. So you can just sit there and receive signals, or you can be a transmitter like the guy. Well, we've got to pick somebody who's actually being heard somewhere. This guy, I think, is transmitting. Yeah, so he's hearing and he's heard by. So he's hearing the K6s and the West Coast stations, and he's being heard by also some of the West Coast stations as well. So you can filter by time of day. You can go look back in time. I use it for checking 2 antennas out. You know, I've got a vertical, I've got a horizontal. Which one is seen the strongest in Australia? Which ones are seen the strongest in Europe? So it's great for doing comparisons like that. And if you've got PSK31 capability, you can do this straight away. No need to change anything in your setup. So that's WSPR. And again, timing is critical on that. It's a 2-minute transmission. So another reason for not running high power is you don't want to be running 100 watts from your solid state rig for 2 minutes. It's not real good. But 1 watt will make it anywhere anyway. So and on a 100-watt rig, it's really, you know, it's 1% of the power. Reverse beacon, you set that up to report back here. There is another site that also does and allows you to do reverse beacon as well. Just type in reverse beacon and you'll see all the different capabilities. And I think this might be the site that I was trying to get to earlier. Here's a demo of the first SSTV. That's how it looked years ago, although I've got to keep the screen refreshing. So any more old timers like me remember these phosphor tubes and the method. This was all done in hardware. This was a type of screen that maintained its persistence. And by the time the raster gets to the bottom, it's fading at the top. So we have to come and refresh. And don't move, because you know that's got to be a perfectly still picture. But now, with all of these different modes that you can see down the left here, there's an ability to get onto the internet and send real high quality pictures, as I mentioned. Now, that all takes place on 20 meters, 14.233. You sit on that frequency with SSB, my goodness, will you get some people coming back and shouting at you. You will hear SSB on it though, as they're setting up pictures to send, and they'll talk to each other about the pictures, and then you'll see this signal come up that basically fills the whole of the 2.5 kilohertz of bandwidth at that point. It just sounds like a rasping signal. It's a bit like that. So that's slow scan TV, but high definition. And then Echolink. How many of you use Echolink to talk? A lot more of you, because it's computer to computer. But nowadays you can also control using Echolink. So I'm just going to bring Echolink up so some of you see Echolink. This is the status right now. These are the stations that are on at the moment, and you know you can connect up and you can talk through that station. If they've got a radio connected to their Echolink, you can talk through that station's internet connection to the world of radio at their location. So, as an example, the first one here is